Okay, I can see that people are joining in, so probably I'll wait for about 30 seconds or so. Sorry, I guess I got disconnected. Let me share my screen. And uh, I guess we're good to go. So, just give me a moment. Thank you, and I'm very sorry for this technical hitch. Um for some reason, my net seems to have gone off on me. So, first of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to this session. At the outset, I wish to say thank you for everyone who showed continuous interest in these sessions. It's been a lot of fun for the team to put these together. We've got some excellent feedback on the sessions that have been done so far, and I hope you will enjoy this session and the ones that we have planned up for the future as well. Coming to what we have in store for you today, the world of marketing is going through a lot of changes. These are very exciting times in the world of marketing, and we aspire to introduce you to this to several new things which have been happening in the last decade or so, and then look forward to get you enthused with some of the things which are exciting us. To be honest. So coming to the actual agenda of what we have in store for you today, the next 40 minutes or so is roughly divided into three segments. The first segment is where I look back at my decade of experience in managing and setting up and managing distribution networks, and the last 5 years of researching the intersection between marketing and technology, and then try to summarize what I feel are some very strong trends in the discipline. That goes into a segue into a different a set of case studies which borrow from this trends and try to highlight how today marketing firms are trying to cope up with the changing trends. Uh, then finally, we uh, I hope I am back online. And okay, so I'm really, really very sorry for all this technical glitches happening at my end. But so if I look back at a decade ago, where when I was just starting out, this was my world of marketing. The customer's journey had three distinct phases. Customers used to they would discover it, and then if it picked their interest, they would go and buy the product, and finally they would use the product, and they would probably buy this product at physical stores or So let me jump back to where I was. So this was the world of marketing. People discovered the product, people bought it at physical stores, and then people used it. They repurchase the product. If you fast forward to what's happening today, there is this whole digital ecosystem that has come up, which is complementing the traditional media. Um, People can now discover the product on So, what exactly is digital IQ? Digital IQ is a set of tools that organizations need to embrace. Given that the digital ecosystem has evolved, uh, given that the digital ecosystem has evolved into what it is today. Um, So, what exactly makes up this digital IQ? Digital IQ, by the way, is sort of this term that's been popularized by some leading market research firms like Gartner and PwC has also jumped into the bandwagon. Essentially, I like to use this term because it sort of, in essence, summarizes what the digital presence of firms should be. It essentially has four pillars: the actual website of the firm itself. Then there are digital marketing channels which act complementary to traditional marketing channels. Then there's social media presence and then the actual path to purchase. Um, so rooted on these four pillars, we'll dig a bit deeper into what exactly these four pillars are. So on one side there is the actual website itself, which is still remains an important source of information for consumers. For example, people go to the website to search and know more about the product. They go there to search for customer service information. They go there to check their accounts and loyalty information. So managing this web presence itself is extremely important. So and that forms one pillar of the digital IQ. The second important pillar is the actual digital marketing channels itself, which are sort of ads which companies place on search or social media and things like that, so which complement existing marketing channels, like placing ads on print or TV, for instance. The third important pillar of the digital IQ is presence on social media platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. These three particularly are extremely important sources of social media presence. In fact, at this point, there are about 9 million advertisers on the Facebook ecosystem. 90% of their revenue, in fact, comes from mobile advertising. So, the social media forms the third important pillar in the IQ. The fourth crucial pillar of the digital IQ is how brands and products manage the actual sales. So whether they go to whether they route their sales to retailers, whether they use carts and whether they use their own e-commerce presence, in which at which point there is cart and checkout, and whether they use content as a guide to selling their products. So, to summarize, there is this huge ecosystem of digital ecosystem that has gotten impinged on traditional marketing, and then that has given rise to organizations scrambling for a set of skills and competencies to deal with this onslaught. And four pillars among them are managing the website, managing digital marketing, managing social media, and managing the actual digital part of purchase. And let's now sort of so now that we understood how the world of marketing has evolved with this infusion of the digital ecosystem and the rise of competencies that organizations are developing. So let's build on this foundation and then look at two case studies at actual firms which are using the digital tools. So the first example I want to pick on is that of Philips. So this is as shared by Philips, the entire digital marketing set of tools they use to manage their consumer presence. If you look at if you look aside from the sort of huge array of tools that get used to manage this presence, one thing that comes straight across is that the voice of customer is there front and center. There are three phases through which the customer goes through, like we've seen earlier. First, there is an awareness phase where the brands are trying to make consumers aware of the product. That goes into the convert phase where interested customers then convert, and then finally to the service phase, which is essentially what happens post the purchase. So this virtuous loop is something that I have seen sort of happen several times in my decade of personal experience, where the only three things good brands do is they get their brand out in front of the right customers, and they bring the customers that are interested very quickly to the moment of wow, which is where they bring the customer directly to places or experiences with the brand where they enjoy using the brand. And then at every further interaction, they repeat this process. So these are the three things that every good brands do, and these are the three phases through which every customer goes through as a journey. And you will see that these three are highlighted here. There is awareness, and you convert, and then it goes on to service. If you move on to a B2B brand like Cisco, so you will see that the same set of three phases in the customer journey get repeated. So people get aware of the brand. People are exposed to information about Cisco's products, and then they go on to buy, and they go on to use the product. And finally, if things work out and the B2B sales team has done its job right, then it actually goes to a renewal phase. If you look at it, even though the whole space is different, it's a B2B space and not a B2C space. Still, the customers go through the same three phases. The customers still need to be aware of the brand so that they know what the offerings are. Then they have to actually buy it, and then once they buy and if they like it, they have to renew. This being B2B, you will also notice that there is this whole set of partners and sellers which get added, because in a B2B setting, there is an additional set of distribution structure which one needs to manage. So as we would, as you look at the two examples which we have just seen and the broad trends that we have observed, there's one thing that sort of there's one strong trend that I can see coming out very strongly, and that is that the firm's focus is increasingly shifting from mere exposure to engagement, which means the firms are no longer content at looking at merely exposing customers to their offerings, but they want to engage with them at multiple touch points. So in this three-phase journey, which we have talked about several times already, where customers discover the product and then they buy it and then they use it, more and more firms are allocating their resources and add marketing resources and efforts towards the right side of the process. So marketing departments, which were typically content on getting customers into the door, and sales teams, which were typically content in converting and retaining these customers, are now sort of in this unified flux where to establish the ROIs of marketing efforts, now the marketing team has to sort of keep a track of what is happening at each of these touch points. So there is a lot of focus now today on engaging with customers after they purchase and actively pursuing them for their feedback on the experience. So that's one big trend that's coming up very clearly. The firms are increasingly allocating resources towards places where people buy and use products. The second trend that comes out immediately as a consequence of this is that now there are multiple places where firms get access to consumer data. That means the number of touch points where brands now pursue with their customers is manifold. And that has resulted in an increase in the volume and variety of data that's today being analyzed by brands. So this in fact, as firms engage with customers on multiple touch points and as volume and variety of data increases manifold, there are totally new kinds of questions which are coming up. For instance, how do you fine-tune targeting to acquire customers? So this is no longer this is a data-rich world where probably we have much more data about which kind of customers like our brand. So how do you fine-tune targeting to do that? Now that we have digital e-commerce channels and other channels, and apart from this traditional channel, how do you manage multi-channel distribution? Then there is a very important point which is becoming more and more relevant is how do you retain customers who add value? So which customers among our base actually add value and who don't? And how do you retain those who add value and then sort of fire those who don't? So this is also becoming an extreme. These are questions which sort of are coming up very strongly, which are bordering from these trends. So there is one huge other change which has happened in the data ecosystem itself. So in parallel with the rise of multiple places where data gets collected, our approach to how we handle this data has also changed dramatically. There has been a dramatic shift on two fronts. In fact, there is a change in the way we are collecting, storing, and processing data, and there is a change in the way we analyze this data. On the data front, we have shifted firmly from query-based or relational database-based systems to what is now popularly known as data lakes. This is sort of given much more thrust with the rise of cloud providers like Amazon, AWS, Azure, and GCP, and so on. Where the data is no longer stored in tables, but it's stored in its truest form. If it's an image, it's stored as an image. If it's text, it's stored as text, and audio and video as such. So there is no processing that happens at the raw data stage itself. And in fact, this is very fascinating because if I look back, the initial years of my career were completely driven. Business logic was essentially having these large databases and queries which link these databases and summarize the data. Today, data is stored in data lakes in its truest form and pulled into intermediate layers where it's processed and standardized and used as required. So, like I said, apart from the dramatic change which has happened in the way we store and process data, there's been also dramatic change in the way we analyze data. So much of earlier business logic was around reporting and query-based summarization, which is now evolved into an additional layer of analysis, which is spawned by this growth of machine learning, which is essentially um, automatically learning relationships between variables, and ad hoc analysis, where brands and companies are hypothesizing about what variables drive purchase, and then that feeds into the everyday decision making. So, in summary, what is happening is that marketing firms today there is a dissipation of effort from across all aspects of the consumer journey, rather than focusing only on exposing people to the product, and then the sales team taking care of the actual conversion. There is also an increase of data-driven decision making within organizations, as is evident from the explosion in the way we store and we analyze this data. Now, so these are the two broad trends, which is the focus on engagement and proliferation of data-driven thinking. But these have actually manifested as several mini trends, or I should say innovations, which have been there uh, for the past 5 years or so. So essentially, it works like this: something sort of becomes very popular in the tech world, and that leads to firms jumping into how do we implement all this into our products, and then that um, sort of comes out as specific actions or activities that firms take. For example, when the technology around how we process, store, and model images became extremely popular, that gave rise to this whole buzz around visual search, where people were using image searching of images as an important way to look for content. When there was this huge increase in the efficiencies of how we were doing recommender systems in technology, then that gave rise to this whole buzz around whether we can personalize marketing for each individual, and if that's the way forward. And there was this whole lot of discussion around that. Uh, Another example was when firms started to accumulate and then use a lot of customer data, that gave rise to this whole wave of using developing customer data platforms, and managing the customer journey using all this data. So, that being said, finally, however great the tech might be, and however awesome the marketing effort behind this be, finally, the what is really important is what business outcomes they did drive. Typically, what happens, as you can see from the curve, is that things start out with a lot of expectations, because the tech matures fast and it shows a lot of promise. A lot of investment goes into it, and then there is a sort of this inflation of expectations. And then once it gets implemented and business impact is measured, that quickly gets deflated into the reality. That is that most of these activities are not adding significant value, and then that leads to sort of this mature approach to decision making, and a plateau of productivity, where firms now understand how exactly to use this technology, and then focus their efforts as per that. So this is how those two trends which we spoke about actually manifest into marketing actions which firms do. Of course, there are so many of these. One very curious thing which is worth pointing out, that there are far few of these, thankfully, on the earlier part of the curve, uh, which means that there are far few things which are sort of new. Much of what is happening is under the execution stage. It means these are being implemented, and then business impact of these is getting measured. So that's quite good. In other words, the buzz around tech and digital is sort of settling down, and we have specific actionable marketing activities which can be done, and then we have the phase of measuring and understanding how good they are. So for the rest of the session, what I will do now is to pick up specific examples. where these innovations have been implemented in these organizations. I'll pick two from the wide world. I'll pick how Myntra has implemented visual search earlier this year as a very key feature. They ran a lot of advertising campaigns on it. And then I pick up Lyft, which is another very strong brand, and how look at how they've implemented their personalization engine. And I look inwards and looking at what our learners have done before, and pick up two examples from their projects where they have also analyzed, say for example, for brand W, the customer journey from the data of transactions, and looking at one very interesting topic that's coming up on social media, which is whether cash strapped brands like Zista can use social media as a way to get over their limited marketing budgets. So you would also see that these four examples have been chosen at four different points on the plot, essentially to highlight that each of these initiatives are at a different stage of implementation and measurement in organizations, and this is going to evolve. So let me go to the first example of that of Myntra. So there was this feature of which was implemented on the Myntra app. It's live even now, and I encourage everybody to sort of go look at how it works. Let me first run the actual ad that came in, and then I'll walk you through. Then I'll walk you through the actual innovation itself.
Kiara, I love your look here.
Let's photo search.
This is fab.
ऑप्शन ज़्यादा तो नहीं है ना?
So that was a short snippet. Let's look at it from four lenses. If you look at the consumer's point of view, this is a tremendous innovation. So there's something which I like, and then I just take an image of that. It might be something I've seen on the street, or something which a friend wore, or anything, and then I search for it directly on the app, and then it directly takes me to the page where this is found, and then I can buy it. So this reduces my effort tremendously. So it's great from consumer's point of view. Now, if you look at it from a marketing point, what exactly is Myntra's value proposition? Is this ability for consumers to discover the style they like. And if you go back to what I just said, good brands do just three things, and they do it very well. They get the target customers to know about what they do. They very quickly bring these customers who are interested in what they do to the wow moment, which is where they discover the brand and they're just blown away. And then at every time the customers re-interact with the brand, they repeat this experience. And then if you look back at it from a marketing standpoint, it checks all these three boxes. Firstly, they have this huge campaign which informs the customers and front and center to that there is this great feature for the visual search that they have. So pushing people to try to use this. The moment people come onto the app and use it, actually they are sort of directly taken. There's no search anymore. So they like something, and they can directly go to the central wow moment within the whole Myntra experience, which is the discovery of the fashion that they like. And finally, it's an e-commerce site, so they have this well-oiled commerce machine, and so it checks all the boxes in terms of good marketing. There is also a lot of ton of goodies here in terms of traditional marketing effort. For example, the choice of the woman as as the protagonist in the video. It shows how aspirational this fashion purchase is. So there's a lot of ton of traditional marketing goodies, and in fact, if you go even a bit deeper, you will notice that actually they are using the same reference. And if you ask people from a generation or two ago, they will also vouch for this fact that people used to look at movies and opinion leaders and opinion leaders and base their products, base their purchases on that. So now that's about the marketing side of things. And now, if you the third lens through which this can be looked at is actually the tech point of view, which is where all the machine learning comes in. So from the tech perspective, um, it's an extremely interesting problem. So there is an input image which the consumer is taking a picture on the phone, and then it needs to be matched to a whole catalog of images that Myntra has on their catalog, and then a sorted list of images needs to be thrown up in real time. So the algorithm needs to be fast. It needs to execute this matching effort very quickly and return a selection of SKUs that are close to the chosen style. So it's an extremely nice tech problem as well. Finally, there's this all most important thing, which is the business lens. So the tech is fascinating. The marketing is outstanding. It is a very good example of how customer journey can be simplified and can become enjoyable. But then, is there any business impact in it? So, if you look at what they've done, there is a very clear call to action, which is to download the app and try it out. So, irrespective of how well the marketing effort or the tech was, the success of this campaign hinges on a couple of things. First is, did it actually work? Were there more app installs after the ads were run than before? Did the call to action work? And the second thing being, the cohort of customers who joined because of this, did they use image search? Do they use it more often? Do they buy more? Do they buy more variety of things? Because taking images is sort of easy, and then does that enable them to search a much wider selection of products? Did they buy more? Do they buy more quantity? Do they buy more value? So that is what will finally determine whether this feature was a good addition or not. Curiously, this thing called image search is nothing new. In 2015, in fact, Flipkart had the exact same feature. Flipkart is the parent of Myntra now. And if you look at their campaign, this is 5 years ago.
If it's difficult to describe, it's easy to find. Introducing Image Search by Flipkart. Spot something you wish to own? Just click, choose category, and voila! Get a range of options to pick from. And what's more, get more options on the ones you love. Flipkart, ab har wish hogi puri.
So they had done this 5 years ago, and if you go to the app today of Flipkart, this is gone. So probably what didn't check out there was that there was no business impact. So while the jury is out on what Myntra has done, probably it's a better experience, and there's a bunch of other stuff that goes into business decision making just beyond good technology and marketing effort. But then ultimately, that's what makes or breaks a feature, whether there's any meaningful business impact or not. Now, if we move on to how marketing is sort of evolving, the second example which I picked is of personalized marketing at Lyft, where essentially when we speak about personalization to a specific customer, ultimately the aim for Lyft, which is a ride-hailing company, is to enable the customer to ride more. So there are two things which the firm can do. It can either give them a price-related offer, which is to either give them a coupon or a discount or something like that, or an experience-based offer where they're upgrading their ride to a premium category, for example. Which of these to pick, and for which customer which has to be given, with the aim that the customer should ride more. But then there is every one of these efforts comes with a cost because the excess cost that is incurred in giving this offer to the customer comes out of the marketing budget. So it's subject to a certain budget. So you will see that a simple marketing problem, which marketing offer should be extended, is now extremely. It sounds as much like an operational efficiency problem. It sounds like an optimization problem. From the inventory of offers which we have, which offer should be sent to which customer, so that overall the number of rides that this bunch of customers are undertaking increases, subject to a certain budget and the control of the variance. So it almost sounds like an optimization. Uh, uh, so going on to going now that we've seen two examples from the wider world. Uh, Now, let me move on and go inwards, where I look at I look at a couple of examples from our learners, where uh, where people have worked on a similar set of problems. And for example, one of the projects which our learners did was to look at this brand W, which has a fabulous online presence, to look at all the transactions that occur on their commerce pages and map this journey into cohorts and sort of make segments out of these different kinds of customers. This in fact, is an extremely important use case for digital marketing today, where the creation of personas of your consumer is extremely important. And today we can do it because we have extensive data on what consumers do on our website. And this is why having a website and the digital IQ we spoke earlier becomes so crucial. Another example, like I said, is one more example is that of how brands probably should or can use social media as an alternate marketing channel, especially for startups or brands which do have a strong brand personality. They appeal to a very niche set of people, but then they don't have the budget to do a wide range of advertising. So, can they use influencers and social media channels as an alternate means of growing business? So, in this case, what they did was to actually link the social media data to actual sales. To understand, so within one campaign which was run, they could link actual outcomes, business outcomes in terms of sales and the social media campaign itself. So what should have come out across from these two sort of examples and the entire story which we have gone through so far is that customers add value to firms in multiple ways. First, they add monetary value or value to their purchases. That means firms make profit because customers buy. So that's a direct financial benefit. They also do referrals, which means they will bring more people to buy products. They spread the word, like the case we just discussed. That sort of solidifies what the brand means. And also, they provide feedback on products through customer reviews and things like that, enabling brands to learn. So it's not just the purchase. Customers add a lot of value, and there's a lot of worth for brands to invest in engaging with customers at several touch points. And depending on where the brand is, whether it's a new or an established brand, one of these four things which I just mentioned, which is purchase, referral, word of mouth, or feedback, becomes very important. So to summarize, what we have sort of looked at in this session, I hope to sort of leave you with a sense that marketing practice is definitely evolving rapidly. A key driver of this is the infusion of digital ecosystem which has impinged on our physical world. There is a rise in datafication, which essentially what I mean is that the rise in data-driven decision making within the practice. So while the core marketing paradigm still ring true, which, like I said, essentially doing those three things, which is to get your brand out in front of the right people, get them to your best and wow moments as quick as you can, and repeat it at every interaction with them. But the way you execute it is becoming very, very different, and marketers need to adapt to these important structural changes. More than anything else, the ability to use data-driven thinking, which is to use data to form hypotheses and to sort of go to your data and answer those questions is becoming very, very valuable. And like you would have seen in the case of Philips and Cisco, there are a ton of tools. There is a lot of things that marketers use today to manage their presence, but that's not what is important. It's actually the skill, that ability to ask these questions and use data to answer those questions is what is sort of most becoming more and more important. Um, with that, I guess I've come to sort of pretty much the end of what I wanted to share. And while I look at a couple of questions that have come up, let me let me just look at a couple of questions that have come up. Please do feel free to post or more questions. So Girish is asking, sir, can I learn Bootstrap? Is it useful in the future? I guess you're asking about the JavaScript framework, if I'm right, not the statistical. So, uh, so if that, I'm not sure if that's what he means, but still yes. As in, I think the world of websites and it has evolved far beyond quickly putting together a set of website, but it is, as in it's still relevant and it's worth a try. There is Vaishnav. Vaishnav is asking that can you tell the path to becoming a data analyst? I've started studying R programming. Is it the right way to start? So that's a good question. So, I mean, I think I can look back at my own experience on this. I started off, I think, 6 or 7 years ago, pretty much where Vaishnav is at this point, started with R. So there are two answers to this. First is the practical standpoint. Much of industry today is, if you're looking at it from an analyst point of view, which is essentially aiding the business leaders make their data-driven decisions. So if that is what you're looking at in terms of the data analyst, then yes, you're on the right path. Because R and to a great extent a bit of SQL will get you a long way in sort of becoming a good analyst. But I think analysis of data goes much beyond. I think programming. You can, in fact, look at a lot of stuff which we have put in our academy, and you will see very quickly that it's much beyond programming. So you will need to supplement your understanding of programming with how do you sort of ask these questions onto data and then answer. So that would require either a machine learning or a statistical approach, both of which are two different ways of looking at the same thing. But I hope I have answered this question. So there is Saurabh who is asking me, as a fresher, there is opportunity in data science field. Of course, there is. So in fact, I think there is less to unlearn. That's the way I would look at it. I guess the one place where probably freshers would fall a bit short is an understanding of the business itself, and that's where I would suggest to spend much of the time in once you join an organization. Firstly, I think freshers are. I don't think they are unwelcome in the data field. That's one, straight up. Second, as a fresher, if I go back and then look back at my journey, much of my frustrations of my bosses were that does this guy can this guy get up to speed quickly with the business process? So do you understand why the data is the way it is? Why is it dirty or clean or whatever? And uh, you know, and can you start off with a certain hypothesis, given that the business is run in a certain way, uh, and then we develop this business thinking. So that I think is something as a fresher I would give an advice to anyone who wants to start up. Definitely, there's a lot of opportunity, but then you need to also imbibe this business thinking. There is Sensumi, how to access data in FB or Twitter or TikTok. This is a very good question. So as of now, Facebook is completely closed to public access. They have an API, and you have to go register on Facebook. Let me take this one by one. I started at Facebook. So for Facebook, you essentially have to open up an app. You go through a review process. You have to share a video of what your app does and what kind of data you will collect. Um, Essentially, all this is coming from that Cambridge and Analytica scandal. So you have to register as a developer. You get to share a video of your app. Goes through a review process. Once it's approved, then you're given basic access. So at that point, you have to query the Facebook API, and then you can collect publicly available data, and then that is subject regulations like GDPR, and that's a whole different story. Coming to Twitter, Twitter has an open API. So if you're directly pinging Twitter, then you can collect the last 3,200 tweets from any account or whatever is publicly shared on their page. If you do the same process, which is open up a developer account and then have an app, you can access the same thing through an API. So that's also there. As far as I know, there's no public API or an access to TikTok, but then you can always open it up as a web page and then try to scrape it. I don't think there is a legal way or an acceptable way to directly connect it up. Then there is this one more question from Kalyani. Does data analysis support only in retail sales or even with industrial sales? So everywhere, I guess. If I look at what's different between these two, so retail sales is much higher on transactions. So there is like a ton of transactions that happen every day. People buy much more heavily in retail. So there is a different kind of analysis that goes there in terms of there are many more, probably millions of transactions that happen if it's a big retail store. And on the industrial sales side, it's the number of transactions are lesser because these are business accounts. So typically, you get into a long-term agreement sort of a scenario, and so the number of transactions are lesser. So in that sense, your analysis is sort of very different compared in these two realms. But then, you know, there is space for analysis in both. In short, so that's the questions I have so far. Probably give it a few more, a couple of minutes more if there's something more. And also take this opportunity to apologize for all the technical hazards I had in the start of this session. Okay, I guess we have time for one last question before. Sorry. Shubhangi is asking, I had applied for DSC course here. How should I prepare for campus? In the evening. This is a good question. So I'm not sure. Uh, I'm not sure if now the background of Shivangi. Uh, but in terms of preparation, I think uh, what we fundamentally check for, if you go beyond the specifics of reasoning or aptitude or math or programming or whatever it might be, is if you I'm sorry, it's going to be a bit gentle answer because I don't know if you're from commerce or science or which background, but essentially what we look for is whether you can uh, reach from a problem to a solution in a logical thought out fashion. So that's the sort of the core thing, whether whatever be the kind of question that is aptitude or reasoning or whatever, this is what it tests. So uh, I'm not sure if I've answered it to her satisfaction, but I'll probably wait for a minute more for any questions that people might have. So, okay, so I'll take this one last question before we close for the day. Damini asked me, "Hi, I would like to know if you have any suggestions for people with workings when it comes to changing the field." Okay, so someone who has done this very recently. The suggestion I would have is to realize that. So let me put it correctly in the context. If you're planning to shift to data side of things, which is analyzing data and machine learning or data science sort of field from something else, I think you should start there because the world is fast evolving into um, just having machine learning is no longer enough. It was very good if you learned all the algorithms and if you know everything. That's really the rage today. But then today, actually, the requirement is for people with data science plus X, which means if you are somebody with work X, you know a certain domain very well, start from there and add data skills to it. So if you are, for example, I don't know which field you're in, but if suppose you are a retail salesperson, you know the retail floor inside out, you know how business works in retail, you know the entire flow of customers, then I would start off being that I'm an expert in retail with a data science flavor. So that's how you could sort of ease in into your interviews, and that will help a lot. If you can bank on what you know already and then augment it with data skills, because that's where the world is moving to. It's definitely going to value people who have business exposure rather than pure algorithm, because that's what you will anyway have to pick. So that's all I had to share for today, and once again, I would like to apologize for all the technical glitches that happened early on. I hope I hope I've enthused you a bit about this world of digital marketing. There's several things that are happening here, like I said, which are extremely exciting, and hopefully, hopefully, we get to hear from you. Thank you.